Jetzt ein Dawn of the Dead Talk mit nichts Geringem als Ken Foree, David Crawford.
Hello?
Yeah. So how are you guys today? Second day of the convention. It's really busy today. You met some great fans already?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's been a nice time. Really nice. A lot of people showed up. I wish I got more sleep last night. Jet lagged a little bit, but it's nice. It's very nice. What about you, Dave?
Oh yeah, I've been having a great time. Meeting people that I've only known from Facebook so far. And it's nice to have a voice and a presence to go with face. So yeah, and everybody's been wonderful. Such warm, welcoming people. Thank you.
So I got some questions from yesterday that fans asked me on Facebook to ask you. So it was, maybe both of you can answer this. If you know, of course you're not in the editing room afterwards, but you know what you guys shot. Were the scenes shot more like in one shot, or did they cut together a lot in the movie Dawn of the Dead?
Again, I'm sorry.
When you shot the movie
Yes.
and you had a scene, was it like a one piece of a scene, or did they split it up, like a whole, you know?
So different shots for each setup, that kind of thing. I think we shot, we would shoot, depending on the camera angle, of course, but we would definitely shoot the entire scene.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would, reposition the camera, maybe pick up close-ups. So it was basically your master shot, your two shots, your close-ups, and mostly I think we used a lot of all of it, basically. I think we had, I don't think we had as many close-ups as you might think, but there are a lot of close-ups in it as well. So I think you kind of switched it around a lot because we had to cover a lot of area. We're in a mall. I mean, there were, and there's four of us, and then there's the zombies. I think the Krishna zombie.
Mike
Christopher, and the nurse zombie, and Clayton and Sharon Kalani, Clayton Neal. They got a lot of individual shots, that kind of stuff. So there was a lot to cover because zombies were always there, new people coming in, plus the four leads, and of course your stuff. I don't know what they did in the studio because I wasn't there. I didn't come into the studio.
Well, yeah, in the studio, I was never a zombie, alas. I was only in the studio being a government scientist. And we did basically the same thing, the master shot, which they take from a wide angle, they get the whole thing. We go through the script once from that point of view, then they come in for closer shots and close-ups of each of us, and reaction shots, turning it around to see the crew in the TV station. We did it in chunks. We do 2 or 3 pages that way, and then 2 or 3 more pages that way. So it's a messy process, but it makes sense in the end. To an editor, it makes sense.
Yeah, we spend the entire day doing 2 pages, or 1 1/8 page, something like that. I mean, it can take that long. Or you can move faster, things can go well, and you can get 3 or 4 or 5 pages in a day. So it depends on how fast the director is, and if he's satisfied with the shots and the performances, then we move along a little faster. If not, it's going to be a long day.
Also depends on, straight into it. Okay. Also depends on how much action there is. You had a lot of action.
Yeah, we did.
And we were just sitting there, so we got we got more done at a time.
You guys got a little loud, you and David. I think he started shouting at you. Did he shout? Jump up or something? Was at that point, or was it someone else that he shouted at him?
He was shouting. David Early was shouting, but not at me.
Not at you, but the other.
He was shouting at the studio.
The crew.
Who were
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Did you guys get to keep something like a costume or a prop from the set?
Oh, You have no idea how many people I really want to get. They took everything. They took everything. Greg Nicotero has the rifle. Clayton and Sharon have the Derringer. My jumpsuits, I don't know where they are. When they had that warehouse in Pittsburgh where they stored all that stuff with, the posters and I guess some of the other costumes and whatever else they store from the shoot. And they emptied that about 5-10 years ago or something. And Savini went in and got all those posters that you fold open, the yellow ones that you fold open, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, he got all of those. So no. I don't have any of it. And I've got anyone who sees Nicotero, tell him I want my rifle. And if you see Sharon Kaladi, you'll probably see it before I do. Till I want the Derringer. Till I pay her for it.
Well, David and I didn't have any props and costumes. All we had were microphones, and we wore our own clothes. So I think I still have that necktie somewhere. And I have my script, but that's all.
It's something, though. Yeah. So I got another fan question for Ken. Not specifically Dawn of the Dead, but how the collab was with Rob Zombie. How was it to work with Rob Zombie?
How was it to work with Rob Zombie?
Yeah.
I can sum it up in this term. When we finished Devil's Rejects, I think to a man, to a woman, everyone, the crew, all the actors, we all said we'd like to take a month off and come back and start it all over again. We really enjoyed it. He was very, very creative. He made it a very relaxed set. It was enjoyable to work with someone that had that kind of energy, and he's an artist. So it was nice. It was nice. I didn't know he was a rock star until I think halfway into the shoot. Well, you play music, so I didn't know that. But he was great, really great. Really, I do it again. And so would everyone else who worked. I mean, down the line, we all said it.
Yeah.
Come back. Yeah.
And David, for you, it's the same question, but different guy. It's George A. Romero.
Working with George Romero was like driving a Mercedes. Everything was beautifully thought out and engineered and worked just as smooth as silk. See, George came out of the tradition of shooting documentaries and TV spots where he had to work fast. So he was accustomed to working fast and doing his own work ahead of time so that when the shoot came and on the set, it could happen fast. Also, he had this stable of crew people who worked with him for years, and they knew how to work together. They didn't even have to discuss things, they just knew. You put the key there, you put the fill there, he went around on coming off the key side. They just knew what George wanted. And he, of course, communicated specifics for each specific sequence of the film. And they took that up and just did it. And watching professionals work, I mean, people who are used to working together and working in a high-stakes situation is a wonderful thing to behold. Well, I'm about to tell a story that's irrelevant, so I'll stop now. Thank you.
Tell a story, please.
No, I was working in a production of Maine, the musical, in a theater in the U.S., and the woman playing Vera Charles, who was a kind of drunken person, had a scene where she came down the stairs in the morning, walked over to the bar, made a drink, then walked to the sofa and sat down and had a conversation with me. Well, the director said, Lenore, this was Lenore Nemitz, Lenore, could you trip over the sofa and roll down? And she said, oh, sure. So in the next rehearsal take of it, she did this. They didn't have to talk about it, discuss it, or work it out. She came down the stairs, went over to the bar, made the drink, went over to the sofa. The doorbell rang, and she was distracted. She tripped over the arm on the sofa and did a shoulder roll down to the other end, ended up like this with a drink in hand and began a conversation with Maine as if nothing had happened. It was a beautiful thing to watch. And she created it on the spot, did it every night, and she did it because she and this director were absolute professionals who had done this kind of thing many times. It's a joyful thing to watch, and that's how George works. He just knows what he's doing, and the people he hires know what they're doing. So it happens smoothly and wonderfully.
So let's see if we have some fan questions today. Jemand, der eine Frage stellen möchte. Okay, einmal.
Hi, I have one question. When did you realize that you filmed one of the most influential zombie movies in the world?
Last week.
That's nice.
No, well, we're not quite that recently, but very recently, I didn't think anything would happen with it. I thought it would play a couple of movie houses and disappear. And then, roughly around the 25th anniversary, several years ago, David Early went to a horror convention in Cleveland. He was my acting partner in the scene. And he called me afterward and said, "Hey, Dave, we went to this convention. I signed autographs. They paid me. I made a bunch of money. You're going to do this." So that was the first indication I had that people liked this movie and remembered it after all those years. Very gratifying and flattering.
Well, there's so many answers to that question because so many things have happened in 35 years, 36 years. But I can give you one. Oh, I hate that. What is that? Man, I'm hearing it over here. I'm hearing it. Man. All right, but I hate that. Anyway, Scott Weininger and I came out. Scott came out to LA just before I did, and I came out, and we were still struggling actors. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna take it back a little further, and this is gonna take just a second. I was working with at a theater company that was across from Lincoln Center. I don't know if you know Lincoln Center in New York, and it's called the Hazel Bryan Acting Ensemble. And there were several people there who are now established themselves as major players in our industry. And one was named Jackie Harry, and I don't know if you know who she is. She was in a series called 227, and she did soap operas, and she was quite famous, and you know who she is, of course. Yeah. So she's quite popular in the United States. But this was the time when we were all, we were struggling actors, and I had just finished Dawn of the Dead, and we were rehearsing on 42nd Street and 9th and 10th Avenues, and this was the old bus station that used to be there, not the new one they erected. And it was deserted and empty, and it had cables on the floor, puddles, and we were rehearsing in this place, but we had a theater near Lincoln Center, but it's where we rehearsed this play. And Jackie and I were coming back from rehearsal, and we were going uptown, and we passed the Winter Garden Theater, and there, that's 50th Street and 7th Avenue, I believe, and Broadway, and that was there was Dawn of the Dead everywhere, my name all over the place, my picture everywhere, and she looked at me and she said, "Ken, you're a star," and I said, "Jackie, we're walking because we can't afford bus fare to get home." I said, "What the hell does that mean?" And that was the truth. That's what we were doing. And there's one more. So I get out to LA, just to move it forward a little bit. I get out to LA, Scott's already out there. And Scott's working for a limousine company. And it's a small company, so they got 4 cars or something like that. I said, "Scott, I just got here. I'm trying to find a job, because then, getting my agent, and we're doing that kind of thing." And he said, "Okay," so he got me on with his limousine company, and so I started working with him and, the company. I drove limousine for about 6 months. That's all I could take, because I wanted to kill everybody I picked up in the thing. They were horrible people, horrible. And so I had to pick up someone at the airport. So I go to LAX, Los Angeles Airport. I walk in, and I see this guy come in, and he says, "Oh, Ken Foree! Oh my God, I love your acting. I love what you do. You're the greatest." I mean, the greatest thing since warm milk for this guy. You know, just all over. And this is, you know, people passing by, and I'm in this little black, you know, suit, and so I had my tie. And he said, "What are you doing here? I saw you in Dawn of the Dead at the Westchester Drive-In Theater, man. My girl and I love you." This was Bob Fosse. Anybody know who Bob Fosse is? Nobody knows who Bob Fosse is, okay? Bob, do you know that film or the play called All That Jazz that played years ago? Nobody knows that either. Okay. All right. Bob Fosse, you know the play Chicago. What's another one? What's the other one he did? Oh God. He was a choreographer. He was one of at that time, he was probably the number one choreographer in the country. He had stuff going everywhere. There's a film called All That Jazz with Rob Schneider, who did Jaws. You know Jaws. Remember the guy who played the policeman or the sheriff? That's Roy Scheider. Well, he played Bob Fosse. And that night, I took Bob Fosse and Daniel Melnick, who was the president or vice president at Sony, to see All That Jazz. Biography of his life. And he was just, oh, Ken, he said, so take it back to the airport. He said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm driving you." And he looked at me, "What? You're driving?" I said, "Yeah." So later that night, after the show, because they took me in to watch the premiere with them, and I went out, when it was over, I went out and got the limousine, picked him up. Oh, this is horrible. And he said, once we dropped off a few other people, and then we were driving him and his girlfriend and Daniel Melnick and his date home. And he said, "How's it feel to put in a performance like that and drive, and now you're driving a limousine?" I said, pretty fucking shitty, if you want to know the truth. So that's it spread everywhere. I mean, people, I had no idea when I left New York. It was in Indiana. I started doing television interviews on all the major networks in Indianapolis, Indiana. PBS in Indianapolis, Indiana. I took countless relatives to the theater every night that I was there because they all had to see it with their cousin. And it was, it just spread everywhere. So, and I think I told them yesterday about the SAG thing, because I got in trouble because I was the only SAG member of the cast, and I didn't figure it would play this country. And it spread it played everywhere, so everyone knew about it, and eventually I was called on the carpet by SAG for being in the movie. So that's when I knew that I had something, but by the time I got to Indiana, I said, this is kind of big, So anyway, that's whatever that means.
Thank you.
Okay. Did I overread this question? I think, don't get me started, all right?
Can I offer some footnotes?
I don't know when to shut up.
Footnote number 1 is SAG is the Screen Actors Guild, SAG. It's the
You know that, don't you?
It's the union of movie performers, and he was working non-union, and the union takes it very seriously. Footnote number 2 is I have often been asked, is it pronounced Foree or Foree? And you pronounce Foree?
Foree.
Accent on the second syllable?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. French Huguenot. Yes.
Accent number 3 is to encapsulate what's it like to work with George. It's like working with a friendly and well-organized bear.
The bear. He's like a grandpa, yes. Anybody else have a question?
One more question. We got time for one more.
Anybody,
Yeah.
please. Hello. You don't know what SAG? I'm sorry, guys.
They should because
Screen
of their
Actors
awards.
Guild.
It's a different country.
I know, but you know, I mean, Bogart, you go back to Lana Turner, you go back to the Barrymores, they all had to be a part of SAG. I thought about it traveling somewhere. My fault. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Right, it's the fan up here again.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Right,
What's going on?
A
Go
question
ahead.
for both of you.
Huh?
You both work with big characters as David Early and you work with Scott Reiniger. And the chemistry, when you watch the movie, is obviously very strong between both of you within those two characters. Obviously, it would be nice to hear what David has to say about David Early, because sadly David Early is no longer with us. And it would be nice to hear what you say about Scott Reiniger, because that relationship you had with him was also very special.
David Early, who played Mr. Berman, my partner in that scene, died a couple of years ago. I miss him. Our secret was we were colleagues, longtime colleagues. We had worked on stage together many times, and in fact, that's how we were cast. George came to see us in a play, The Trial of the Catonsville Nine, about some war protesters, priests. I played a priest who were put in jail because of the protest of the Vietnam War. And George came and saw us in that play and said, yeah, those guys will work in that scene. So he cast us right then and there. And the chemistry between us was rich because we had a history and also because we rehearsed a lot. In movies, you often don't get to rehearse much, but on stage, you rehearse for weeks before you perform the play for an audience, and we were used to that custom. So we rehearsed our scene in my little apartment above a pizza shop many times before we went to the set to film it.
Yeah, Scott and I auditioned for Dawn with Scott, David, Galen. First audition was with them. Then they called me back 3 or 4 days later and had me audition with 3 other people. And there was a chemistry that they were looking for. And there was another guy in the second audition who would have played Scott's character. And we kept bumping heads because I was going to lead and he was going to lead. And it wasn't working. I didn't mind it so much. I noticed it a little bit, but it's okay. We're auditioning, let him do it. We're both actors, but I knew that it wasn't quite as smooth as what happened with Scott and I and Galen and David. And he was an athlete, I was an athlete. We were both pretty cocky, so that kind of played into it. And we played off each other fairly well, so that's basically what it was. We continued to kind of partner up and try to play with crash strengths, and mine certainly was a little different than his, but it worked. It worked. I'm not sure if it was any kind of magical thing that happened. I just think that if we were just the right people at the right time, the right personalities that mixed, and it worked well for us. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. But people can find you at your table and talk some more, and tomorrow you will be back on stage. Yeah?
Ooh.
All right, so give it up for Ken Foree and David Crawford.